Hello, this is Brian Foster. Sorry, we are about 10 minutes late. Um, we had some technical problems we had to work out, but they are all fixed now. Sorry, we are a little late. It's 4:09, almost 4:10 on November 18th, 2018. And we are here to bring you another Sunday night. We're usually started here right on sharp at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, all time zones in between and around the world. And we are here to start on our, here's the camera. There we go. On our wonderful program on Spiritism. And tonight it is a dispassionate opinion we're talking about. So what are we highlighting tonight? It is verse 8 in How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism. And one of the verses, the 8th verse, was a dispassionate opinion. Now, when I talk about Spiritism, where did Spiritism start? It started with Allan Kardec, The Spirits book. I recommend this book to everyone. In fact, you can tell we have a bookmark on here. We open this book. We have our family home meetings, and we have at the same time one night a week. Oh, hello. I don't know how to pronounce your first name, Joelma. Joelma Vargas. Nice to see you. Nice to have you on the program. But we look at the Spiritist book every during our family at home Spiritist meeting. We have it on Monday nights. You can have whatever night. Just have it at the same time on the same night of the week, half hour, whatever time you think is. We go over, a little bit over. We put water in the middle of the table. We start with a prayer. Then we go through the book. We talk about it. We read some questions and answers, and then we close with a prayer. We put water in the middle, and afterwards we drink the water because the spirits around us magnetize the water. And I tell you, when we have those meetings, I can feel the presence of spirits around us. It's a wonderful thing. Families use different books. Gospel According to Spiritism, another great book, is read parts of this as you go through. And again, this book is a wonderful book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. You just randomly open pages and then talk about whatever topic, read it a little bit and then explore it. We have, my daughter is now 14. We've been doing this for years, and she's getting more and more about how everything works. So it's a wonderful experience, and it brings the family together. Again, so how to live is the main topic. And there was this wonderful poem created by Andre Luis. I'll read the poem again. I haven't done that for a while. Here is the poem. I will read it. It's Inner Peace, a poem by Andre Luis. Keep always, and then I went through, and then what I did for each of these verses, this is what this book is about. For each verse, I go through and I try to interpret what does Andre Luis mean by that verse? What does the spirit world mean by that? How can we attain it? So here's the poem. Trust in God and in yourself, a serene conscience, time spent on productive matters, a constructive speech, a prayer allied to work, hope in action, an industrious patience, the blessing. A dispassionate opinion, what we're talking about tonight, the blessing of comprehension, a participation in everyone's progress, a compassionate attitude, truth enlightened by love, oblivion of evils, happiness in your commitments, unconditional forgiveness of offenses, a devotion to study, a gesture of kindness and an encouraging smile, spontaneity to assist others, a simplicity of habits, a spirit of renovation, fostering of tolerance, courage to place yourself second to serving, and perseverance in goodness. Oh, hi, Barry. Good evening to you, and good evening to Adriana. Let me see what Adriana said. Oh, she went to her first Spiritism class today. Oh, excellent, Adriana. We are so proud of you. That is wonderful. I hope you had a great time. I hope you felt the presence of the spirit world around you. I think that's a very exciting thing. So congratulations, Adriana. That is a wonderful thing. So Let's talk about in this poem. Oh, thank you, Joel. Let's talk about this poem, then inner peace. So the eighth verse was a dispassionate opinion. And the poem I just read, it was very stoic, right? It was just a couple words each line. What does that mean? And it is so interesting to try and interpret that. And I took this as a not not so much for actually everyone uh, out in the world, but I actually took it for myself to say, okay, can I understand what is meant by each of these verses? And then here we're talking about, can I understand what the spirit world means by a dispassionate opinion? And so I started with, you think about opinions and not being emotionally involved. Oh, Adriana, thank you. Is like during the Age of Reason, which is most commonly acknowledged around the 18th century in England and France, but beginning in the 17th century, when we try to get away from excessive emotions and we try to get when the numbers, of scientific discoveries started to explode, ideas reigned, it was thought that to calmly sift through the arguments and weighs the pros and cons, then only then to respond or to conduct one's own experiments was the correct approach when discussing new theories. Excitable replies and over emotionally retorts were considered to show a lack of intellectual force. Now, isn't it sad to see our culture today where we live in the opposite world? At least in the most visible section of our popular culture, if someone says one word wrong, it's everyone piles on, and then that person is social media tries to destroy that person. This is hysteria, and this will not last. This cannot last. This cannot be the way our culture will be. We have to listen to other people's ideas. We may disagree with them, but we shouldn't yell back or try to destroy that person or try to do anything like that that could harm that. The person needs to understand what they're saying, right? And they have to be given the freedom to parse it. And we have to let other people hear ideas they may not want to hear. That's why we're on earth. We're on earth to learn. We're not on earth to live in a safe space and not be challenged. Heavens forbid. This is why we're here on earth. It is to be challenged. Exactly, Matthew. Political correctness is a spiraling out of control. It is really a terrible thing. Not that anybody did this on purpose. I'm sure a lot of what people when they did was a good intention, right? They didn't want to hurt people. They wanted to be nice to everyone, and of course, we all want that. But we have to be open. We have to live with different opinions, and we have to be able to hear different opinions. So, and I think this is really pertinent when on the verse 8 is a dispassionate opinion, because we have to get back to that. We have to be able to listen, to debate, and to talk to other people. Because contrary to popular opinion of what we see in our culture today, we are not placed on earth to reside safely and in constant peace, right? We're not here to listen only to what we desire to hear. We are not here to close ourselves off and only read, watch, and listen to what we already know, so we reinforce our own misconceptions. We are on this planet of atonement, this campus, where we must pay for our past misdeeds and accumulate new experiences to accomplish one goal and one goal only: improve our character and transform our personality to rid ourselves of the blemishes, hate, envy, pride, selfishness. Those are all primitive attitudes and characteristics that probably did really great jobs for us when we lived in a eat or be eaten world. But now we are supposed to be a little bit more mature spiritually and morally, and we want to replace those blemishes, those characteristics, those primitive characteristics, with positive attributes: love, fraternity, charity, and honesty. And this all cannot be accomplished without interaction with others. We must be exposed to good, bad, indifferent, stupid, and intelligent ideas so we can acquire the skills to filter out those which are useful for ourselves and society, and those which are indifferent or detrimental. To hone this process, we must learn critical thinking and get rid of the habit of emotional reaction. When I was in junior high, I had a wonderful social science and history teacher, wonderful guy. He spent an entire series of classes on being able to discern points of view. For example, he showed us the headlines of newspapers that covered the Hungarian Revolution against the communists in 1956. From behind the Iron Curtain to the newspapers of different ideologies in the West, we learned through critical thinking that all news has a point of view. All news was biased in one way or another. By taking his class through these valuable examples, we knew to take nothing at face value, that we must distill the facts for ourselves, and then and only then make our conclusion. That lesson has never left me. And it's actually more valuable today than ever before. When we have news, when we have mostly opinion masquerading as news, we really have to learn, and this is from all sides. I'm not blaming anyone, but we really have to learn, okay, what are the facts? What is the frame of reference that person is talking from, right? Because look, everyone's talking. No one wants to destroy anything. They all think they're making it better, but people have to sit back a bit and understand what's the long-term ramifications. In the spirit world, that's what we need to learn, right? Because in the spirit world, remember, why are we being trained? Why do we have these lessons that are so hard, right? And we go through pretty hard trials and tribulations because we're learning how to fashion our mind. We're learning how to control our thoughts, right? Because thought is action in the spirit world. Here, spirits, we'll call this the land of effect. The land of cause is the spirit world. Everything comes from the spirit world, and the effects are all here. It's here. It's quite. We're not masters. Our thoughts do not change things, at least very slightly. But when we go in the spirit world, our thoughts are all powerful. We create our environment, we create our dress, we create our appearance, we create buildings. Eventually high spirits like Jesus Christ create solar systems and worlds and planets, in connection with other high spirits. It's that dramatic. Your power is going to be dramatic, and therefore we have to learn how to have a dispassionate opinion. And when we look at people who we disagree with, we don't look at them like, oh, that evil person is disagreeing with me. We look at that person as a work in progress. And, we could be wrong too. So we should think that. But even if we're very sure we're right, is we look at that person as a work in progress and know that at some point they will learn. And it's not our job to correct them and immediately, reform them. Right? The spirit world knows the lesson plan better than we do. And so, this lesson I had in junior high that class was so good. In fact, he was never allowed to give it again. I think we learned too much. It was amazing. So you could tell political correctness was already taken back then, 20, more years ago when I went to school. But the lesson has never left me. And later on, when I was in the position of responsibility for corporations, I saw firsthand how articles in newspapers and magazines could be easily manipulated to push whatever point of view you desired. And only reporting a simple story, the facts were incorrect or manufactured by reporters with an ideology to shove onto their unsuspecting public. Therefore, trust nothing you see, read, or hear. Analyze for yourself first. Then determine the amount of confidence you have in the alleged facts presented. Research. And unfortunately, this is particularly true of our media today. That, one media calls the other fake news, the other one calls them. You just can't trust anyone. Trust yourself. Trust your own research. Look at different points of view. See what are the physical facts. See what they feel like against your conscience. Is that the right thing to do? Is that the charitable thing to do? And that doesn't mean you have to be nice and wonderful to everybody. Some people need to be in prison, right? They've done something, they need to be punished. So you never know, but think about what is right and what is right for the long term for that person. And our media today, their ability to selectively edit and rearrange audio and video makes it easy to misshape even the most innocent of acts. So hence the need to be on your guard and learn to filter all information through your own mind and conscience. And this is good for us. Actually, this environment, you need to look at this as an opportunity, Because when you look at, we are in the spirit, we're here in this physical world. And remember what Spiritism tells us. We're surrounded by spirits. We're surrounded by good, bad, and indifferent spirits. And therefore, we have all these thoughts, right? Remember, your thoughts are, you're like a radio tower of thoughts, and other people are radio tower of thoughts. So you have all these thoughts coming through you, and you have other spirits who are actually maybe trying to get you to do something good, right? A good spirit, or something not so intelligent, right? Someone's giving you bad ideas. And so it's the way our world is now too. So what we need to do is we have to start filtering it, right? And that's how we start. So how do we start having a dispassionate opinion? That's what I try to do in my book, is say, what does it mean? And now how do we get there, right? So we get there by starting to learn how to filter the information coming through us and around us. The good news is every human has a conscience. It is the set of divine laws given to us by the Supreme Being. It is through this mechanism that we compare every action and thought against. The maturity and breadth of your conscience depends upon your spiritual maturity. And your spiritual maturity is gathered via multiple existences on earth. Hence, reincarnation are multiple incarnations. So this wonderful spirit, Joanna D'Angelis, it's just a wonderful, she writes wonderful books, and it's all through psychographed by Divaldo Franco. She then explains the process of how reincarnation helps us. This is what she says. Reincarnation is the instrument for spiritual progress. At times, individuals must endure expiation when their wrongs are serious, submitting to afflictions that are educational disciplines, whereby the duties they must fulfill are fixed deep in their conscience. At other times, they undergo trials which strengthen the moral fibers responsible for dignifying action. Rather than being a punishment, the gift of physical rebirth is a blessing of God's love. It helps the spirit develop latent resources like soil that is tilled and fertilizes so that the tiny seed may become the lush plant sleeping within. Given this reality, broaden your conscientiousness through reflection and act with ethical certainty, surrendering from now onto the duty of enlightenment. Never put off your duties under the pretext that you'll have future opportunities. Your conscience will tell you that today, here and now, is the time and place to build your spiritual self, which must ascend, freeing itself from primitive atavisms and perturbing passions. Awareness of reincarnation will drive you to progress through love and the good with no alternative for failure, because the light of happiness shining ahead will be the stimulus for reaching your goal. Without reincarnation, intelligent life would return to chaos, and the logic of progress would be reduced to stupidity and ignorance. That is what Joanna D'Angelis said. So through reincarnation, through multiple lives, we atone for the wrongs we did. We start learning new things. And not everything is atonement. A lot of it is just learning in new situations. In fact, I was listening to, there's a link in the Facebook site, Spiritism in the Spirit World Around Us. You can look at that, get to that, join that Facebook site from my blog, NW Spiritism, and you can scroll down on the right-hand side, Spiritism in the Spirit World Around Us. And one of the persons put a YouTube video, an interview with Geraldo Neto Lemo, I think I have his name wrong, but he was a person that helped and been and helped actually publish books, for Chico Xavier, Francisco C. Xavier, who I quote a lot in my books. And he's actually said he's actually published 507 books so far. They keep making new books from interviews and different messages he wrote. But he gave a great example of atonement. He said that there was this woman who had a son, and she was very upset because he died when I think he was like 19 or 20, and he died. It was a really hard death. It was before the advent of penicillin, so they could fix gangrene. It was like around 1940s, I think he died. And he died of gangrene, and he died a really hard, slow death. It was pretty bad. And in fact, what Geraldo said, he came back and he wrote this boy who died wrote more than 43 messages to his mother, making her feel better, etc. And Geraldo said, Chico, why did this terrible thing happen to him? And what Chico said, well, that's because in a previous life, the mother was the wife of very high society in France. She was the wife of a baron in France. She fell in love with this young man. They plotted together to poison the baron. And in fact, they used a poison that at that time in France, no one could detect that it was poison. So the baron died a very slow and painful death. Well, this boy was actually her lover who came back, so they would probably fix the relationship by not make it sensual, right? This was the one that helped her murder her husband. In fact, he probably is the one that gave the poison. I'm not quite sure. And therefore, to atone for that, this poor, who was now her son, died a very painful and slow death. There's an example, right? And actually, I wrote a whole book, The Problem is the Solution, about how things happen. And then really, when we have problems, think about this. When we have problems, like I always think, what did I do, right? What did I do to do this? I mean, I wrote about this in my book, The Problem is the Solution, and other places. It's like in my life, whenever I got money somehow, I either got laid off from a job and got paid off or something, I've always lost it, right? And I didn't gamble it away. I didn't take drugs and that type of stuff. I thought I did very conservative things, but it's always somehow I did something stupid and I lost it, right? I finally figured out why I was never allowed to not live, paycheck to paycheck, is because when I was at a mediums meeting, actually one of the first ones I was at, my wife and I were there, and we were told that in previous incarnations, we were put in positions of responsibility, and instead of helping people, we took their money. So, okay, that explains it, right? I'm not allowed to be comfortably, in that manner, that makes total sense, and it makes me more sympathetic to others, right? So that's an opportunity for me to learn simply, to not buy extra things, to take joy in the smaller, in the family and other things and walks and so forth. So this is all good. This is how we need to look at things. So Joanna just told us about reincarnation. This is what it does. It teaches us over and over. And therefore, me and all of us included, we're in the process of improving our spiritual quotient. And isn't it wonderful to have a spirit world giving us detailed lesson plans that we have no idea about, at least in our physical life now, but back before we were reborn, we probably actually helped with these plans. So most of these things, how you look and what happens to you, you were involved in that decision. I would say probably the vast majority of people who will ever listen to this program because they're interested in spiritism were probably part of the planning process of your life. So now, some of us may find it difficult to flesh out the gray areas for ethical dilemmas, while others with a history of added incarnations or more successful incarnations will be able to completely unlock the right answer, whatever type of situation we're presented. But whatever the status of a person's spiritual and intellectual growth, utilizing your own conscience, right? This is what I'm saying, because we're talking about dispassionate opinion. So what are we filtering is using our conscience. We learn to ignore the words and deeds of others is the starting place. We are placed on earth to exercise our wills to trim away bad habits and reinforce positive attributes. To do this, we must exercise what thinking and feeling ability we possess. The most important point to remember is that pure intellect, or in other words, let's say the level of IQ of a person has, does not imply spiritual ascendancy. Just because a person is smart doesn't mean they're spiritually advanced. The Spirit Joanna emphasizes this theme. This is what she says. Currently, psychology is facing a new approach regarding the development of interpersonal intelligence, which has to do with social relationships, the observation and monitoring of events, and the ability to discern, respond consciously to the various spiritual states, different temperaments, and care that must be used in the treatment of others, something that goes way beyond the intellectual robotization. Consequently, it is necessary to harmonize emotion and thought such that they mutually aid each other. This is what I talked about at the beginning of wisdom. I'll go on with what she's saying. With emotion providing warmth to reason, which in turn offers understanding to the heart, thus avoiding remaining on just one aspect of the reality that makes up the human being. She goes on further. Of course, misdirected emotions perturb one's thought, making concentration difficult and working against the intellect. In the same way, cold and logical intelligence creates obstacles to sharing, to emotional focus, rendering individuals deprived of love and sensitivity. So you can be too cold and logical, and it's all a balance. I'll carry on. They may express all the beauty, describe all the harmony, and speak of all the greatness of life, but will feel nothing, rendering it only intellectual and lifeless in form. When emotions predominate, attitudes are embarrassing, and persons simply cannot think correctly or tell right from wrong, creating behavioral problems. Boy, we've seen a lot of that. She says, neuroscience says that this phenomenon is a result of the functional memory located in the prefrontal cortex. Hence, it is necessary that in the festival of life, emotions coexist well with reason so that sentiment and thought contribute mutually to the commitment to happy results in human decisions and conduct. We will conclude by saying that humans have two brains, the emotional and the rational, which we may say are two types of intelligence, even two types of minds. The development of both corresponds to the successes or failures that affect human beings. That's what she says. Now, isn't that logical? Doesn't that make sense? We all have two minds, emotional and rational. And don't we always have a conflict, right? Because if something emotionally hits us and we know we did something wrong, say for instance, but we just don't want to admit it because it makes us embarrassed or whatever, then our rational mind has to say, no, come on, you want to get back. And that's where we really need to use our conscience, right? If our conscience says, look, take the step. Oh, here's Adriana. I have a question. How come some people have so much and others don't really have anything financially? Well, Adriana, that's a great question, and that's because you are put in the culture, the time, the place, with the parents and the friends you are, to help you learn what you're supposed to learn in the life that you have now. As I was saying before, I am middle class. And for a reason, to learn to be middle class. In another life, I could have been in a poor family and never allowed to go to any type of schooling or even not be smart enough to start my own business. Something could have kept me down. So I would learn to live within my bigger means and to concentrate maybe more on my spirituality. Because, Adriana, what we're told, and this is in the Spirit's book, and this is really interesting. They ask, what are the hardest trials? What's one of the hardest trials that people go through? And you know what that is? It's to be rich. Think about how many rich people, what happens when you're rich or a celebrity or famous, whatever, you have the opportunity to be a complete jerk and no one cares. In fact, you'll just be given anything you want because you are so rich. That is, to maintain your humility and your niceness and treat everyone as they should be treated, even though when you're rich, unfortunately, a lot of people try to take advantage of you. So you have to be on your guard. That is a hard trial. Yes, and some people are more successful than others. Again, that there's a great, another story I'll tell you about. It was in my books, Heaven and Below. One of the books, I have 3 books. It's all about messages from the Reverend G. Val Owen in the early 1900s. And I talk about different aspects of Spiritism. And he talked about a cobbler. And this cobbler, someone who fixed shoes. This was, done in England back in the 19th century. And he would fix shoes, right? And he lived a very simple life. In fact, his main worry when he fixed shoes, he fixed them, he fixed the poor people's shoes. His main worry was that could those shoes last long enough for those poor people so they would keep, they could afford to fix them the next time. And he came back into the spirit world. He died a death. He had just enough money to pay for his funeral, is what was said about him. And he came back and he was given this modest room and one of the levels of heaven. And he was sitting there. Then a higher spirit came and knocked on his door. And he said, hello, come in. He goes, oh, how are you? I said, I'm fine. And then this high spirit says, pointed to a book on the table, goes, have you read that book? He goes, yes, I've read that book, but it's not meant for me. It's meant for a higher spirit. It's meant for someone who can understand, more of how different groups from different religions and different countries, they can work together. And it's made for more of a management in higher levels of heaven. He goes, well, turn that book around. And then he took the book and he turned it around and he found out that he was the one that wrote it, the cobbler. He wrote that book. And the higher spirit says, you wrote that book? He goes, no, I couldn't have read that book. No, yes, you have. He goes, you were sent to have a life, a simple life, so you could understand and be more spiritually and loving to other people. You needed that. You needed that lesson to connect you with those type of people. He goes, no. He goes, I'm too humble. I could, never be in charge of a group like that. So no, as we go on, you come with me. As you go on, you'll start regaining your memories. There's a whole group of people waiting for you to lead them when you come back and lead them on how to have different spirits from different areas and different cultures work together. And so that tells you. So this wonderful person who is, wrote books in the spirit world about how to manage large groups of people working together, was sent to earth to be a simple person who repaired shoes, not successfully financially at all, but he needed to learn that lesson. So that's why we should see whatever situation you're in, think, okay, what am I learning from this? How can this help me? And you know what? This is why I love Spiritism. This is why Spiritism is so great. Because once you get that attitude like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I just lost, that car or whatever. I wonder what I'm supposed to learn from that. It makes everything, it just de-stresses your whole body. It's like, you're in school and sometimes you're going to get hello, Edna Portella. Sometimes you're going to get a C, sometimes you're going to get an A. It's just you're trying to do as well as you can, but it takes the stress from out of you. This is why this book, How to Live Inner Peace with Spiritism, and you can go through and understand how to live and how to interpret events. And again, as we're talking about now, a dispassionate opinion. It makes you, Spiritism just supplies why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Everyone's learning lessons. Yes, we're here to learn to fall and get up. Exactly. And we're learning to try to do it with a good attitude. Now, before I learned about Spiritism, I was the biggest whiner. Oh, this happened to me. Hopefully I do that a lot less. I still do that, but now I not like, you don't know, when you're a spiritist, you're not supposed to be passive and let everybody walk over you or just sit at your house and wait for the world to come to you. You still have to go out and do things and work and learn and do well at your job and, all that, but at least you can have a good attitude on that. So what Joanna was, getting back to what Joanna D'Angelis, as far as, reincarnation and having the emotional and rational or the rational brain, and how we need to balance that to have a dispassionate opinion. We have to have intellect and emotional warmth, right, and understanding. So this all tells us that an advanced spirit is not simply a computer beyond our imagination. A high spirit contains just great intellectual ability, but love and empathy. Almost universally, when people report their near-death experiences, if they describe an encounter with a shining angelic being, they speak of the wave of warmth and love emanating from their body. This is why you must learn to combine the two forces of intellect and emotion into one power. What is our best guide of that? That's Jesus Christ, right? He had intellect and emotion, right? He loved. I mean, imagine what the apostles must have thought. This completely intellectual person in a time and culture where if you were very intellectual, you just lorded it over people, right? It was might is right. It wasn't that you should follow these moral things. It was like if you have power and money, you do whatever you want. I mean, that's just amazing. This is why Jesus came to us and gave us this little, 2,000 years ago. Okay, let's learn this little lesson, and then other people came by. Allan Kardec came and codified Spiritism as promised by Jesus in the New Testament. The Consoler, I'm going to tell you more. Allan Kardec codified Spiritism. Now we're learning more. And in fact, in Chico Xavier, other Spiritist writers, psychographs, Yvonne Pierre, etc., are telling us more and more. And this is why it's just so interesting. We are learning so much about the spirit world. So going forward, so how do we start getting a dispassionate opinion? So first, just as we need to exercise patience, right, to learn to wait for the right time, to not rush what must be developed over the course of events, we also need to exercise understanding and empathy. Only with those two key levers can we postulate dispassionate opinions. As one advances in the Spiritist doctrine and comprehends the long arc of our education on Earth, and possibly other planets as well, a sense of calmness descends upon you like a protective covering. The little disappointments, the petty bureaucratic requests, the malicious gossip all become background noise that you become less and less aware of. Eventually, even the greater challenges are recognized as opportunities to either gain more knowledge or pay off past debts. This lack of stress, this self-induced beforehand, but now erased or vastly diminished, frees up your mind to focus on the new horizons. You will find your ability to concentrate enhanced because you're getting rid of all these negative emotions, right? You no longer have 1,000 insignificant worries dancing around your head. All this frees you to lift up your intellect and feelings to greater destinations. You can begin to more fully explore your conscience, your actions, the actions of those around you, and you can better set attainable goals for yourself. More importantly, you can expend the right amount of effort to think through problems and formulate an opinion based upon the foundation of spiritual wisdom that you have built. Emmanuel, in the book Thought and Life, psychographed by Francisco Xavier, provides us with the importance of understanding. This is what he says. A farmer cannot furrow his fields without a plow. A sculptor uses a chisel to bring out his creative ideas hidden within marble. Likewise, to produce protective mental reflexes, we need understanding as a foundation for the task of our renewal. An understanding that symbolizes dynamic brotherhood, a feeling that is like a magnet in which our best attracts the best in others. All of us are immersed in our own mental waves by virtue of an existing natural circuitry. We classify ourselves as good or bad according to the way we use our feelings and thoughts, which are electromagnetic forces that either protect or hurt, help or damage, vitalize or destroy. They always return bearing the elements of happiness or unhappiness that we have given them. When we are angry, irritated, aggressive, or rude towards others, we instigate through reflexive action, discouragement and intemperance, cruelty and coldness towards ourselves. On the other hand, whenever we are generous and understanding, being of service and useful to those around us, we create happiness, tranquility, security, and cheerfulness that work in our favor. Life answers us through every creature and every according to the nature of our call. Until all beings reach cosmic consciousness, they are differentiated by the light that raises them to the pinnacle of evolution, or by the shadows of darkness from the suffering caused by their past. This symbolism works even with humanity on Earth. The sun in its full splendor is high above us, while the dark abysses are found below. All of us receive inspiration from the future from our celestial Father, and all of us suffer the repercussions of the past upon our lives. To undo the handcuffs of evil we have forged against our souls, we must seek goodness, feel it, visualize it, and mold it with all the resources we can muster. We can begin by distinguishing the criminal from the crime, just as the farmer sees the difference between the worm and the soil, so that he can lessen the strength of the former and enhance the usefulness of the latter. And just as the farmer works to eliminate all the blights to save his crop, so must our understanding find the means to help our neighbor who falls into crime. To make ourselves humble in order to help, without diminishing our own heights, is to ensure the improvements of all and thereby enhance our own progress. However, only tireless dedication to understanding can guarantee us the necessary balance in the task of our self-improvement. We must make it our most cherished dream, for only love, pure and true, can create in our minds the energy of divine light as it radiates from us into waves on constant renewal. So, Emmanuel stressed the importance of giving constructive criticism. Be generous with positive emotions and approach, giving your opinion in the fairest manner possible, even while rejecting that which was presented to you. Rebuff was as much diplomacy as manageable. Finding the gem of agreement and eliminating the other points helps to validate the other person's approach to their idea while not actually agreeing with their original premise. It is an excellent device to present your opinion in opposition to the one given you. On the other hand, be open to changing your mind. Think through what was offered to you and determine if your conscience, heart, and mind sees valid arguments which may alter your own thinking. Now, I had a question from Adriana. How come a lot of people here in the USA they don't know about Spiritism or Allan Kardec? Well, and actually, it's all throughout the world. It's just to give you, go off on a tangent a little bit. Allan Kardec was codified Spiritism in the 1850s, so I'm sure everybody here knows. And it became well known, I think, through a lot of Western civilization, in the world. But then the organized religions really, they actually held book burnings and other things. They tried to clamp it down, and they tried to equate it with talking to spirits, doing these type of things. And they kind of diminished it, and it brought it back up. It never really disappeared anywhere. There's always little pockets of people. It was not very well known because it was clamped down as much as possible. But it started coming back up in Brazil. And through various people, the Menzies actually started it. Chico Xavier, I think, was really, was a huge catalyst and the things he did, he was just remarkable. He was probably the highest spirit that was on earth, probably within centuries. So that is getting known. And in fact, the future, as foretold and as the spirits tell us, is in the future, Spiritism will become well known. It's not a religion, it's a doctrine. Other religions will adopt its precepts: reincarnation, cause and effect, karma, etc. And Brazil will be the heart, and the United States will be the mind that will help spread Spiritism throughout the world. Brazil in Spiritism, I believe there's about, people can correct me here, I think it's around 10% of the people are Spiritists in Brazil, which is quite huge, amazingly. So people, they know Spiritism. There's been novellas, the telenovelas about Spiritist concepts and of reincarnation and so forth. So, and then of course the movie No Solar, the Celestial City in English, has made a big impact. A lot of people in Brazil. And of course I would recommend anyone to watch that. You can find it, Celestial City. You can rent it, I think, for $3.99. It's great. I bought it. My wife and I and children watch it, every year. So it will become known. And Adriana, hopefully you can help. That's why I'm here on YouTube. That's why there's so many wonderful spiritists here in the United States, trying to spread the message. Spiritisms, and as everyone here who hears this, Spiritism is not an easy message. So on one hand, it explains everything, right? And I'm going off on this is a great question, Adriana. And so you think about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. But on one hand, it tells you, like in the books I've written, Heaven and Below, etc. You learn so much about the process. You learn really what heaven is like. You learn why you're on earth. You learn why is what is happening to you. But then again, it is difficult because now in Spiritism tells us we are always watched, right? We are always watched, right? The spirits are all around us. And heaven forbid, we are accountable for all of our actions. I cannot tell you how many people said, well, doesn't God forgive? Doesn't God forgive everything? Doesn't Jesus forgive everything? And I tell them, yes, we are always forgiven and we are always loved, but doesn't mean we don't need to learn the lesson. When you have a child and that 5-year-old or 4-year-old, whatever, breaks something or does something that is dangerous to their own life, right? And, I'd say write on the walls, and you say, oh, I forgive you. Go ahead and write on the walls. Of course, if you let that child write on the walls, you could never take him to any other house. It would be horrible. So therefore, you have to put that child in the corner. Of course, the child cries, and the child's thinking that you were the worst person ever, and this was horrible that what you did to them. This is how we are here on earth. Yes, Matthew said, easy to learn, but hard to apply your life, at least for me. Exactly. So when you learn that every action has a reaction. So, and of course, the good things too, though. Remember, Spiritism tells us that we rewarded 100-fold in the spirit world for the good things we do. So this is not an easy doctrine. It has its challenges. So let me go on with the dispassionate opinion, because I've had some great diversions here. So now we've talked about going forward, right? Start filtering out everything, start analyzing everything. Help get your emotions and your intellectual processes in a balance. Then lastly, what you need to do is you need to trust yourself, right? As you journey onward with your quest to dispassionately analyze things, learn to trust yourself. When you feel you've established a firm foundation of belief in God and in the truth of the spirit universe and all that implies, you shall more often than not be correct in your opinions. Emmanuel tells us this: undoubtedly, there are many people of estimable opinion to whom we may resort at opportune moments. However, we shall never discount the opinion of our own conscience, because that divine sanctuary is where the voice of God usually enlightens us. And that's the most difficult part of the equation. We must learn to listen to our conscience, not rationalize away why this or that fragment is fine, right? To ascend is to listen to the total findings of your inner voice, not just the parts you like. Boy, that's a tough one. We have to learn all the way, in life. I'm still learning that. Accomplishing this feat makes you the owner of your spiritual truth. You become unalterably tied to the spirituality, to God, the universe, and everything. Your thoughts become intertwined with the grace and majesty of the aims and feelings of superior spirits. This happens, this emotional and intellectual freedom and into a warmer, more beautiful place happens because you're no longer influenced by the baser emotions of the lesser spirits. Spirits who have not yet discovered how to leave the lower zone for the brightness and heights of heaven. Their radiations of ill-conceived adventures will no longer enthrall you, because you'll filter them out, right? Ill-gotten gains and shortcuts are not welcome in your new state. Only by being responsible for your construction of your moral authority, directed by the conscience and concert with God, will you be able to make the big push to your ascendancy. Freeing yourself of doubt in the pursuit of goodness is a life-changing event. You shall be a wholly different person, a person with a noble aim and countenance. The Spirit Joanna lays out the ramifications of reaching this state. This is what she says. It's very interesting. Whatever you resolve without analyzing it deeply will become truth to you. Believing it to be true, you will see it as real. You need to submit your beliefs to the test of reason to see which ones can endure the scalpel of logic and common sense. Therefore, any criticisms and reproaches leveled at you ought to not disrupt you and throw you off balance. First of all, draw up your action plan and make your mind to carry it out. Shielding yourself with the ideal you have espoused. Press on. Do not argue over your plans and aspirations with the world's owners of the truth, she puts in quotes, especially those who are particularly close to you, because those individuals are unwilling to understand you, let alone help you. The majority of them are passionate combatants for their own transitory truths. You stop right there. So understand it. People are passionate about their own transitory truth. In Spiritism, we are trying to understand divine truths. We're trying to understand cause and effect. We're trying to understand the long arc of our lives over millennial. Therefore, Joanna says, don't listen to them. They are locked in their own transitory truth, which they do not give up because they are belligerent. Consequently, they become severe criticizers, aggressive sentinels, and forceful fighters against others. Pay them no mind. If you disregard their senseless opinions against you, their slanderous references, and their acidic comments, none of it can touch you. But if you do heed them, they will become truths that trouble you and disrupt your progress, although you have a destiny to reach. The truth, the real truth, gives balance. It simulates order and respect for the ideas of others. Fulfill your commitments, unconcerned with what others think about you, your actions, your life. You are free to act, but remember, you are a slave to what you do, reaping as you have sown. The rest is unimportant, unless you decided to make it important. The truth always satisfies, so let its power pervade you and carry on tranquilly, supported by it. So what is he telling us? She's telling us to live your truth, interpret the actions and ideas of others through your truth. Give them your dispassionate opinion, fashioned by your truth. Above all, love, simply love everyone for who they are, wherever they fall on the spiritual maturity scale. For one day, they too, like you, shall become a perfect spirit. Okay, I want to thank everyone. I've a minute over my time, and I want to thank everyone for a wonderful meeting tonight. Again, please go to my blog site, nwspiritism.com. You can see my books on the right-hand side. And of course, the book we're talking about on Dispassionate Opinion right now is How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism. Please share this to other people. Share this Facebook streaming. Go to my blog. Go to my YouTube channel. You can, on either YouTube or BitChute, you can subscribe, tell other people about all the videos we have about Spiritism. I post this Facebook streaming. Oh, thank you, Sol. On my YouTube channel, and I have a lot of other ones, like 4 to 6 minute ones called Explore and Explain Spiritism. I talk about reincarnation. I talk about all sorts of things. And so hopefully, as Adriana says, why doesn't everyone know about Spiritism? Hopefully, if everyone here can help spread the word, and then let me know how I can improve and help each other. And so we can tell everyone why you're on earth. Because once we all adhere to the doctrine of Spiritism, and we find out what the cause and effect is, the world will be a better place, right? You're not going to harm your neighbor. One nation is not going to attack another, right? We're going to get rid of war, envy, and hate. It will be a wonderful place. And we need to have people understand it, because once you learn that whatever you do now is going to affect you in the future, you're going to modify your behavior much more effectively. Anyway, love and blessings to everyone. And I will see you again on next Sunday at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, and all time zones in between. Thank you so much. Good night.